Okay, guys, we're back on.
After these commercial messages.
Yeah. So when you get into your dictionary, look at all the things that you can do, okay? You can add to the dictionary, delete stuff from the dictionary, modify, print, export, all of this stuff. Look at number 1. And I'm going to push it, huh? Find entries. So now what you've done is you've focused in on something. So now you're telling me, you know what, I don't want the general big dictionary. I want to focus in on something. All right, well, what do you want to focus in on? I want to focus in on numbers. And you can go straight to numbers. So anything that has to do with numbers, it's only going to go to that. Anything that has to do with capitalized letters, conflicts, phrases, prefixes, suffixes, speakers, paragraphs, any of that stuff, if you generalize it and you go into that specific thing, that's all you can work on. They don't have all those things that have to do with just that. Does that make sense? Guys, it makes it a lot easier to be able to do that. Okay?
Do we go back to the lesson?
All right.
So how did you get out of there?
Huh?
Out of the dictionary.
Just come up here to the little thing and get out of it.
Oh, the little X.
And that'll get you out of the dictionary. Yeah, Katie?
Sorry, like off topic, but is tech support 24/7?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
For students, it's not, they changed the hours.
Did they really?
I want to say it's only till like 8 p.m. because I called the other night and it's cut short. So when you go home tonight and you try to call, they won't help a student.
You know what? If you need to call them right now, call them.
I mean, I can wait. I can wait till tomorrow.
You could just fake
Well, we only have a little bit longer, so I mean, you can stay here and
Okay.
yeah, you'll have enough time. But what you may want to do is call them now because it takes them a while to get to you. So it'll take them 5 or 10 minutes or whatever sometimes, or whatever. So anyway. Okay, guys, pay attention. Real important. Just like I told you before, when you use the number bar, you don't have to define the number anymore. Okay? All you define is the words that are written out. So now when you type 1, all you have to define it as is 1. So W-U-N, which is 1, number 1, all you define it as is 1. I don't want to confuse you too much, so I'm only going to explain this one time. This is the old way we used to have to do it. This way. 1 and 1. Now, when it's a number, you don't do anything. What's your name?
Angie?
Pay attention.
Yeah,
This is real important. Yeah, no.
I'm trying to find my spot where you're at.
It doesn't matter.
listening.
No, it doesn't matter. Just pay attention up here, okay? This is real important because if you don't do it right, it's gonna come out wrong. And you're gonna, man, I don't know what's going on. All you have to do is when it's this, define it as that. When it's that, you don't not need it in dictionary. You don't need to define it. So when it's the number bars, the numbers, actual numbers, you don't have to define it. Got it? So now with dollars, that's how you do dollars. So if they say it was $403. And that's the way you write dollars? How do you write dollars? Dot like this? Okay, that's all you have to define it as, is dollars. D-O-L-L-A-R-S. And it already knows that the artificial intelligence already knows that if there's a number that comes with it, then it changes it to the money symbol. It already knows. Okay? It's real simple. Now there's people that do it this way with DZ. Does anybody do it that way when they talk about dollars? Does anybody do it like this in one stroke? 5 DZs or 5D? I do it that way. I do 5D. It's actually pretty cool. It's good. But if you do it that way, now we're doing something totally different. Now you have to define the number because you wrote it together with a stroke. So if you do it that way, if you decide to do it that way, which is good, I do it, and it's good. You have to define it like this. 5, bracket, close bracket, dollars. And it knows to put it together, and it comes out like that. Okay? So like what I do is I do, well, how much was it? It was $5, 5D, 6 cents, 6S. I do my cents with the S. In one stroke. In one stroke. If you do the 5, next stroke D, you don't define it like that. It's only if you use it in one stroke. Got it? Okay. So when they're talking about $5, okay, $5, this little backslash or whatever, slash, means that it's 2 strokes. So they wrote 5, come back, dollars. How do you define it?
Don't define the 5. Just define dollars, right?
That's it. You may be teaching the class next semester, son. You were the only one that was listening. That's it. Only define dollars. Do nothing with the number unless you use the number in the same stroke. That's the only time that you're going to define it differently. Like I was just telling you, 6 cents, right here, 10S. When they have a slash, that means it's together. It's one stroke. When they show you here that it's when they have a dash, when they have a slash, that means it's 2 strokes. When they have the dash, that means it's together. Okay? So when you go back and look at this, if you go back and look at this lesson, that's what it means right there. Okay? What did I just say?
That if it has a 10 with the hyphen, that's one stroke.
With the dash.
Yeah.
But if it has the slash, it's 2 strokes. Okay? Very important when you're defining it. Okay? So now that you have it as one stroke, now you have to define it like this. Angie. 10, open bracket, close bracket, cents. Not the cent sign, cents. C-E-N-T-S, okay? But if you do it like this, 10, and then write it out, cents, in a totally different stroke, then that's all you have to do. Cents. Got it? Same thing with 100. You're doing 100. So you do 1 with the number bar and then HUN. What are you going to define? Just 100. Just 100. Just like it's telling you right there. All right? So now they're showing you that you can do $100 in one stroke. All right? This is where it gets a little tricky too. Now you have to do it. You can still do it that way, which to me is the easiest way. Don't even worry about this because it's the or. So now you just define it as $100.
Tons.
Okay? Because there's no number in there, so you don't have to worry about it. All you have to do is define the $100. Same thing with 1,000. All right. Now, when we were talking the other day about, they say, what was the quantity? Well, it was 6.1 milliliters. Okay. Well, do you hear the point? Do you hear the point? Yeah. But you know it needs to be different. It needs to be the period. So I would write it different. So the way that I write it is point, P-O-I-N, point. 6.1 milliliters. Because point is going to come out as point.
Right.
Like he was pointing. Okay? And when you do that as point, this is the way that you have to define it, as decimal. So it's open bracket, decimal, close bracket. Remember we were talking about the brackets, and it's real important how you do the brackets. Now this is different because the brackets tells it, you know what, there's going to be a number probably before, and there might be a number after, and the brackets tells it to put it together. Okay? That's what the brackets tells it to do. So if you just define it as decimal, guess what you just did? It's going to come out as decimal. That's what you just defined point as. So now it's going to be it's going to be 6 decimal, decimal, 1. No, because you forgot to put the brackets. So if you don't put the brackets, it's going to do it different. Same thing with like time. Okay, they say 9 a.m. I do a.m. with the asterisk. A.m. asterisk. And then that defines it as that. So I don't have to create a conflict. But if you create a conflict, then that's the way you have to. If you're going to write am and am, then you have to create it as a conflict. And the more that you use it with the number, it's going to get to know that that's what it is. Okay? But it's kind of one of those things. Same thing with PM. There's no conflict for the PM, so you don't have to create it as a conflict. So if they say 7 o'clock and you do it this way, 7K or K7, this is the way you have to do it. I don't agree with it because I was always taught that you don't use the numbers with o'clock. I was always taught you write it out. So it should be S-E-V-E-N. That's the way I've always done it. If it makes more sense to you to do it that way, as 7, the number 7, o'clock, then you do what you want. I was taught that you're not supposed to do it that way, but whatever. I mean, you do it however you want, okay? This is the way I do it. So I do it 7 o'clock. And I do the clock with the asterisk, which tells them it's the time. It's the o'clock. So really that's what all I define it as is o'clock. I don't do all of this mess. okay? So it just comes up as 7, but I do my 7 as SEVEN, 7 o'clock, okay? So that's the way you do that. Same things with miles an hour. I don't think it makes any difference that you put the bracket or don't put the bracket. You know, it's miles an hour. That's all it needs to be defined as, is miles an hour. I don't know why they put the bracket in there. Braces allow Eclipse to recognize miles as a unit of measurement that triggers conversion for the preceding number. The system will then insert the literal text an hour. I don't know. I don't know. So maybe what it's telling it there with the brackets, maybe it's telling it, you know, if you write your numbers out, that it needs to be in numeral form. I don't know. I don't know why they do it that way. So if you do hyphen, I guess that's what it's saying, is that you have to define it like this. Because when you put the N, it puts it into numeral, it puts it into a numeral. So like a 1 instead of O-N-E. So that's what it's telling you right there. Pound sign with the capital N tells it to put it in a numeral. Okay, so if you write 1-5 O-N-E-F-I-V-E, but it's 1-5 hyphen, and then you put 98 at the end, then it's telling it, if you define it like that, the hyphen, that if there's numbers in front and back, which there should be because it's the hyphen, that you need it in numeral form. Got it? And that's the way you have to define it.
So if it's a hyphen in general, you want it to be numeral form? I mean, I guess, yeah, if it's like a phone number, right, it would only be like numerals.
Yeah.
I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, it would never be like 1-5. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why there's something that's necessary, but. I
What's
guess,
that?
Like putting the,
I think that's just for like numbers. Because I use a hyphen like writing and it was
that was like, I guess I just didn't know that was like a rule, like hyphen has to have numeral numbers.
Yeah.
He's saying like in general for
Yeah, usually it's always going to be numerals on a hyphen. Okay? Same thing with slash. First. How do y'all do when it converts it into an ordinal? How do you write that? Michelle?
for first.
Like if they're going to say 32nd, how do you write that?
THIRT. Third, and then I come back set.
SEKD? Second? And that writes it as an ordinal? As 32 ND? You've never done it? You know, like when they say, well, when were you born? I was born on the 8th of July.
I write it out, like, I spell it, I mean, I write it out as an ordinal, and it just comes out as the word, so it'd be like 30, or just write 32nd,
Yeah.
and then I'd have to fix it in the automagic or just type in.
I use the E and an asterisk. Like for third, I have the number bar, like 3, and then E and an asterisk. And I use that for second, like Indy, ST, like all my Indies.
Well, see, I learned in school that it was just the E. So like if it's the third, it's 3E. Fourth is 4E. Fifth is 5E. Everything was with the E.
That's way more
That's
simple.
really-
What does the asterisk do?
I don't know. I think I think it is just E, but for some reason use the asterisk and I'm
Okay.
used to that. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, if that's, you know, it doesn't matter. As long as it comes out, it doesn't matter. But figure out a way of being able to do ordinals. But if you do it that way, you remember what the thing was to get to the number conversions?
Control-Shift-3.
Control-Shift-3. And then all you do is highlight it, do Control-Shift-3, push ordinal, and it changes it. Pretty cool. All right? So you might want to remember that. Control-Shift-3. You too,
I wish
Jeff.
I remembered it that way. It's my way so much harder with it.
Yeah. So I mean, is that the way that you would write May 1st?
Yeah.
You do 1E asterisk, right? But I mean, you guys that we just talked about, that's the way you would do May 1st?
How would you do it?
Well, my May is totally different. I write my months with an asterisk. So it's Jan, Jan asterisk, Feb is FEB asterisk, March is MAR asterisk. So all of my months have an asterisk. And then my first is 1E. So it's MAI asterisk 1E. That's how I would do it. But if you're going to do it like this, you may want to figure something out. Because I would figure out something for the month. I would, if I were you. Now, if you're going to do the first like that, then you can create it as a conflict. And just do it as FIRST or 1ST. Okay? Or just find another way to write it. Okay? It's up to you. You know what, guys? I think we're going to end right there because the next part we need to talk about is pretty in-depth too. So it's talking about changing stuff from numbers, time conversion, money, units, digits, whatever. And what we may do, I don't even know, we may go over numbers all over again on Monday. That's how in-depth numbers is, and that's how important numbers are, is that usually I spend a whole class doing numbers, but with the short one that we did before, we just kind of went into it, which was good. I think we learned something tonight. Do I have any questions about the stuff we went over? Yeah.
The last thing you were showing with the May 1st, I would write it the same way, but I would put, I think, MAI asterisk and then FIRS asterisk.
Yeah.
So just add an asterisk to both. So you're saying that I need to figure out a way to define it so it pops up with the little, like instead of the word, I need to have it so it's like, I'm just confused. Sorry.
Well, yeah, because if
Instead of
say,
the word first, like the number and then the ST, right?
because if they say, well, when were you born? Well, I was born May 1st.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be numeral. Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to come out FIRST.
Yeah.
I was born in capital MAY FIRST. No.
That's like a big deal to like have to edit all that. Like,
Well, it would be wrong if you do it on the test, on the state test.
well, no, but I mean like, so, like, if I just leave it the way it is that gonna really slow me down with numbers? Like,
You know, like I was telling, what was her name?
Debbie?
Debbie. Like I was telling Debbie, you can create it as a conflict. So you can do it as FIRST and 1ST.
okay, that's probably what I'll do. Okay.
Yeah. Got it? Any other questions? Okay, we'll see you guys on Monday.